that they Hello and welcome to another edition of the Mayor Minute. My name is Cheryl Verkaman. I'm the Mayor of Marine City, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing the Animal Control Director for St. Clair County, Melllllissa Miller. Welcome, Melllllissa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did I get your title right?
Absolutely.
Animal Control Director.
Correct.
Okay, good. So I always like to start off by saying, tell me about yourself, what your background is, education, all that good stuff.
Sure. My background is I have a degree from Michigan State University, but I didn't get into animal welfare or sheltering until about 15 years ago. I started out as a dog trainer and then became a responder for the Humane Society of the United States disaster and large-scale cruelty response. So responding to everything from hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes to puppy mill and dog fighting raids of hundreds of animals. So
I bet that was interesting.
Yes, definitely. Everything from Superstorm Sandy to the California wildfires just not that long ago. I was the director of Detroit Animal Care and Control for 2 years while they were doing a restructure, which was really exciting and really grateful for my time there. Went back to the response team for a little bit, and now I've been here at St. Clair County for about 1.5 years.
Interesting. Sounds like a very good, varied background. Tell me a little bit, I'm just kind of curious about the like when you go into a disaster area, whether it be a fire, flood, like you said, Sandy, the wildfires, like who coordinates all that? Because you're bringing in people from all over the country, right?
Right. For
that kind of a big disaster.
Yes, so for large-scale disasters, typically the work goes in ahead of time. There is a memorandum of understanding between mutual aid organizations. So nonprofits that would assist, the Red Cross, for instance, in terms of animals, it could be any number of the large national organizations that would come in. The most important thing when it comes to a natural disaster is not to self-deploy. Always make sure you're part of an organization that has a MOU with emergency management.
Right, because you just don't want, people just gathering and going in and grabbing animals. Right,
and then potentially not really knowing what they're doing and getting themselves into trouble and having to be rescued themselves.
Right. Right. Interesting. That would be very interesting. So describe your department and how it functions.
Animal control serves 3 separate purposes. One is the enforcement of all animal laws. So we are peace officers who have enforcement powers to make sure that dogs are licensed to enforce animal cruelty and neglect charges, animals running at large, and injuries caused by animals.
Okay. And where is your facility located? Where are you located?
We're located at 3378 Griswold Road in Port Huron. We have our tiny little shelter, which we have about 25 dogs and about 50 cats right now.
How big is it? I mean, do you have any acreage, or is it just a small facility?
Not really. It's a pretty small facility. We have a couple exercise yards, which is really nice to be able to get the dogs out and get them walked, thanks to our wonderful animal care technicians and our volunteers.
Yeah. And do you just accept dogs and cats there?
Dogs and cats. We recently, well, a few months ago, had an experience with someone who had dumped a bunch of bunnies. So we had 13 bunnies come in. Fortunately, some rescues were able to step up and help us with that. We've had the occasional reptiles, snake, iguana, but mainly just companion animals. We are not licensed or authorized to handle wildlife.
Yeah, what do you do if somebody walks in your door and they've got an alpaca, or I mean, what do you do with them?
We reach out with a couple nonprofits that focus on livestock or equine care, that their focus of their nonprofit would be to help with those type of animals, farm animals.
Yeah. So I would imagine that you have a list of resources for all different animal types. And
Right.
you make a couple phone calls and off they go.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is good. So what is the process if somebody wanted to surrender their animal? Let's say, you know, you got an elderly person that can no longer take care of their Great Dane.
Of course. There's so many reasons that people struggle with being able to keep their pet. And so the first thing is giving us a call and talking with one of our office staff about the reason that you need to surrender. If you need to surrender because you simply can't afford your pet, we do have the CARES program, which is a program that supplies donated items of food, leashes, litter boxes, litter, things sometimes that get donated that we can't use in a shelter environment, but it can be used in a home environment. And so we do have supplies. We've done everything to help people keep their pets, including helping with crates, dog houses, straw, even a baby gate to keep a dog that kept rushing the front door from running out the front door. So if we can help keep people with their pets, that's what is the best. We do a managed intake for those who cannot keep their pets. So you would call, and if we have space and availability, we make the appointment to have the animal surrendered, so that we always make sure that we're within our capacity of care for the animals.
Right. Because what happens if you are like to capacity? And
if we're to capacity, that's really when the boots hit the ground about really working with our transfer partners, really working with rescues and other folks to help us with animals when we do hit the full limit. We currently have an 89.7% live release rate, so we're just about at that 90% status. We're really excited about. And so in order to do that, we manage the animals that are coming in and provide resources when we are at our limits as well.
Yeah.
So people can advocate for themselves and their own pet when it comes to rehoming their pet.
Because there are a lot of, you know, and thank goodness for, you know, social media in that respect, because there are so many different, you know, and specific rescue sites, right? Chihuahuas, and I mean, they're, because I know that my friend just got a Chihuahua, and she got it from a site. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, and there's a lot of rescues that are willing to help. Ultimately, there's some dogs, just because they're high energy, they're very large, or perhaps they're anxious and nervous, that it's better for them to go into a rescue or to be rehomed family to family than to come through the shelter system.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. How long do you keep animals?
We keep animals as long as it takes to get them adopted, as long as they're mentally sound and they don't propose a risk to our staff's safety. The only reason we euthanize in our facility is if an animal is irrecoverably ill or injured, or if an animal is a public safety risk.
You know, I looked at your website, and one of the things that I noticed, because I was looking at what you had for adoption, you know, and I was kind of amazed that the majority of the dogs are pit bulls, or pit bull mixes.
Yeah, we have a lot of the large-headed, smooth-coat, beach-bodied sort of dogs that fall in the 37 breeds that people use to say, you know, pit bull.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different breeds that go into that mix. But really what we see the most is not a particular breed as much as is a particular size. Lots of dogs between 45 and 80 pounds. People come in very frequently asking if we have any small dogs, and it's not all that common.
Yeah, they're looking for a lap dog.
Right.
And they get the medium-sized or larger. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In the springtime, we get a lot of strays that come through, and our return to owner rate is 65%, which the national average is about 20.
Wow.
So our volunteers that work with social media do a phenomenal job of reuniting pets with their families. But for the animals that no one comes for, We get a lot of houndy, hunting sort of friends in the springtime, and then a little bit more of the labby, shepherdy, pity sort of friends that come in the rest of the year.
Yeah, and you know, and even though I saw all those pit bulls, even though, like you said, there's many different breeds of pit bull, right? It's like an umbrella, right? Pit bulls kind of have a bad rap. I mean, you know, they are. I mean, they can be, you know, because of their jaw pressure. When they latch on, they latch on. But I have friends that have pit bulls. In fact, my one friend, her little sweet. Oops, was that me? That was you.
I think that was mine.
She has a pit bull, a female pit bull, and they named her Mary.
Aww.
And she is the sweetest thing.
Yes, absolutely. When it comes to animals, it's important to remember that every dog can bite. Actually, when it comes to pressure and jaw pressure, dogs that we refer to as pit bull or bully type breeds do not have any stronger jaws than other animals when it comes to PSI. So it's really important to remember that all dogs can bite. The most important factors in dog bites, number one is someone who cannot advocate for themselves. So children under the age of 7, our senior citizens, people with mobility issues, or that have difficulty communicating when a pet is too close to them. So that's the number one factor in dog bites. So it's always important to maintain active supervision when you are around dogs and any of those groups of folks, kids.
Sure, because you never know if a kid's going to just, you know, yank or get too close. You know, they want a hug.
They do.
You know, my grandson's too, and we were going for a walk the other day, and, you know, this big dog was coming, and right away his arms were out, and, you know, and I looked at the dog owner like, you know, we got to do a little introduction here before he just reaches out and puts his face close to that dog's face.
Absolutely, and their faces are right at face level for a dog. As my dad used to say, that's doggy world, and they're living in it. And so it's important to help teach our kids about what's safe to do around dogs, to not get in their face, to not play with their food, to let them have their own space when they're eating or playing with a special toy.
Do you think it's, I mean, I always said, you know, put your hand out, let them smell you first. What is the proper introduction for in that situation, right? The dog's on a leash walking. You know, you hope that the owner is going to be, you know, active as I am with, you know, my small grandkids. But, you know, I always say, you know, let them smell you first. Is that proper?
Well, what we found in the most current research is anytime you're reaching towards a dog, you're invading their space. So what the best way to do is to stand. We teach kids to stand like a tree, so either cross your arms in front of you or keep your arms straight to the side. And to hold still and let the dog come up to you and sniff you. And if he sniffs you and he has a loose body language and a loose tail and he's got a nice curvy wiggly butt, then it's usually okay to pet at that point. Teaching kids to pet for about 5 seconds or less and let the dog ask for more petting is also really important.
Yeah, good advice, good advice. What is the best way, we're going to get into the sticky stuff now, what's the best way to report like an animal abuse situation, or what is abuse? So
there's two types of behaviors that we consider abuse. So there would be abuse that's neglect, meaning the animal isn't being taken care of. This is more of a passive type of abuse, but it still does fall under neglectful abuse. This would be an animal that's perhaps very thin, has a medical condition that's not being treated or cared for, unable to stand, unable to move properly, have fur or coat or ear infections, eye infections, upper respiratory infections that inhibit breathing. So not getting your pet medical care when it's a serious issue, allowing its skin to become open sores, not feeding it a nutritious diet that makes it a good body condition, a good weight,
Yeah.
a good healthy weight, is what we would consider neglect. There's active abuse, which is the hitting, kicking, cruelly driving an animal, for instance, having a dog, dragging a dog along by vehicle or by motorcycle, something along those lines. That would fall into the direct active abuse.
Do you consider it, abuse if somebody puts their dog in the back of their pickup truck?
It's not a safe way to travel with your pet.
Yeah.
There are laws that do talk about safe ways to transport pets. For instance, they cannot be transported in a way that they cannot stand up, turn around, so they cannot travel in a trunk. There are different counties that have different laws about having your dog loose in the back of your vehicle, like an open bed truck. They become a projectile if you are in an accident, and their chance of survival is very low. So, of course, we would like to see that animal riding safely, either in a crate or in an enclosed space, or ideally in the vehicle with the person.
Yeah, yeah. Because, that time of year is coming, summer.
Oh, sure.
And a lot of dogs just jump right in the back of the pickup and off they go, and yeah.
And it's important to think of, too, even if you have a four-door sedan, if you have that window rolled down,
right,
you definitely want to make sure your dog is on a leash and that leash is buckled in, or that they're in a pet-safe harness that is specifically for cars, so that if you're stuck at a stoplight and they see a squirrel, they don't launch themselves out of your vehicle to go chase that squirrel.
Yeah. Because that's a hazard to you too, because then, you're stopping your car in the middle of traffic to go chase your dog, or,
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. What happens after someone, like if you get the phone call in your office, that is an abuse phone call, right? I think my, neighbor, the dog is out on a leash all winter, no shelter, I don't see any food, how do you respond?
So that would be assigned to one of our 2 animal control officers, that they would go and investigate the situation. If you were willing to provide photos or videos of what it is that you're seeing, that's always helpful to us as well, because it may not be something that we see when we actually get to that location.
Do you have to witness it?
We do, or we need some sort of proof that something like that is happening. For instance, if an animal is being left outside when there's no shelter and it is below freezing, there's no dog house, and there's no food or water available. If we get there and the dog's inside, then we can have an education conversation with the person. But we haven't had any evidence that the animal actually was outside for multiple hours in an unsafe situation.
Yeah, yeah. So if the animal control officer rolls up and sees an abuse situation, they obviously knock on the door, they want to talk to the people that are there. Can they take the dog at that point if they...
Well, animals are considered property, so we have to go by the 4th Amendment. We can't remove property or things without a warrant. So the next step would be determining that it does meet the statute for cruelty or for neglect, and it would be working with our sheriff's department on getting a warrant for that jurisdiction and then seizing those animals. The next step after that is getting civil forfeiture of the animals so that we can place them in wonderful loving homes, which we have definitely done that quite a lot over the last couple of years.
Is there anybody specific at the sheriff's department level that handles, like is there a group or a couple of officers that actually handle the calls like that, or is it just...
No, it depends on when we call and what time of day it is, or night.
Yeah.
What the experience is, but we work together very well.
Yeah, good. What is your most common animal complaint?
Our most common animal complaints, well, there's really 2. One is loose dogs. Dogs that are running at large, And it's very common in rural areas, especially when people have a lot of acreage, that their dogs are out running their farm, which if they have 40 acres, that's great. But when you hit the 43rd acre, you're on someone else's property.
Yes.
So it's making sure that the dog is under your control when it's outside, that it comes when it's called, and that if it doesn't, you have it on either a lightweight long tie out or some sort of system to make sure the animal doesn't leave your property. The other call that we get a lot is exactly what the situation you were talking about, which is inappropriate shelter or inadequate shelter during extreme weather. So during the winter, it's during those really cold days, and then during the summer, it's the really hot days of not having shade or water.
Right, right. So you touched upon having an animal on a tether or a leash. Let's talk about the leash laws.
Sure. You're required to have your dog, if you're off your property, on a 6-foot leash, and it needs to be in your control. So it can't be that the dog is walking with the leash dragging on the sidewalk. The loop part has to be in your hand. Because I've seen a few people try to say, but he's on a leash.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
he controls the leash.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he does have to be in your control at all times. So, and that's for the dog's safety as much as yours. You know, dogs that are, you may need to very quickly pick up your dog or move your dog if there's a dog that comes towards you that is not leashed, and to help save your pet.
Yeah, yeah. That happened to me once walking. I had a little dog, and we were walking on a sidewalk, and somebody inadvertently opened up the door, didn't see us coming to get the mail.
Right.
And their dog saw us coming and bolted out. And my little dog, I literally lifted her up by her leash, just and grabbed a hold of her.
Right.
Thank goodness she was on leash, because then then the dog started coming after me, but then the owner came. But that's how I brought her in with the leash to protect her.
Right.
Yeah.
And those situations are really scary. In urban areas where your neighbors are close and you might just have that little postage stamp front yard, of course your animal is allowed to be off leash on your property, but I always say, are you more exciting than a squirrel or a rabbit? In most cases you're not. So if you don't have good enough recall with your dog to be able to say, Snowy, come here, then and the dog comes when it's called, then you really should be taking your dog out on a leash if it's not a fenced-in area.
Yeah, I think a lot of dogs get loose because the owner is just opening the door slightly, right, to get the mail or a package or whatever. And the other day I was watching an advertisement, and here's a new invention. They actually had something attached to the frame of the door and something attached to the door, and it was like a netting.
I've seen those.
And it gave probably, you could open the door almost a foot and a half or something like that, and the dog couldn't go through. And I thought, that is brilliant.
Yeah.
Or a child, or
Absolutely. Baby gates, items like that. If you have a dog that's a door dasher, not the app.
Yeah.
If you have a dog that runs towards the front door and you are receiving lots of Amazon packages, or someone is coming over, using other ways to manage the environment is really important.
Yeah, yeah. It's always one of those little inventions where I'm like, why didn't I think of that? I could be a millionaire. Let's talk about the big subject of spaying and neutering. How important is it to spay or neuter your dog?
Incredibly.
Yeah.
There's so many health benefits to spaying and neutering your pets, particularly when it comes to cancers, prostate cancer for the males and mammary cancer for the females. A lot of folks think they need to let a female either get to her first heat or have one litter. Female dogs don't have the same connection with babies and the birthing process that we do. Disney has done a lot to make us think otherwise. But in real life, dogs don't need to have a litter to make sure their life is complete. Also, if you wait until your dog goes into the first heat, the benefit of spaying is still very consequential, but it still can increase the chance of mammary cancer later in life. So it's better to have it done before they're 5 or 6 months old.
Mm-hmm. So for a dog, it's 5 or 6 months, right? Regardless of the size, the breed.
Right.
Yeah. What about a cat?
Cat, we say 2 months, 2 pounds.
Really?
Yes,
that young?
That young. Pediatric spay and neuter is so important. Cats can have a litter as soon as 4 months. 4 to 5 months old, they can go into heat for
What
the
is that
first
in
time.
cat years?
That would be about 5th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's incredibly important. We're entering into kitten season right now.
I was going to say, yes, it's spring.
So between the months of April to August, cats can have 2 to 3 litters of kittens. And so we get inundated this time of year with kittens and moms that are close to having kittens. Kittens of all ages, unfortunately, sometimes kittens that are very scrawny and ill because their mom may be too young to really know what to do if it's her first time. And so lots of resources go into helping these little ones make it.
Right, right. So is there, let's talk about where someone can take their animal for spaying and neutering. Obviously, you can always go to your vet, you know, but are there any free services or?
There are some low-cost services. SNAP is within our county. I know all veterinarians and all services are booking out quite a few weeks in advance due to curbside service and the veterinary shortage that we're experiencing right now. So there's also some resources in other counties, but it's important when you're looking for those resources to make sure that they accept out-of-county low-cost spay and neuters. Right,
right. And we were talking about, just before we went on air, what SNAP is. It's an acronym, right? And we said it was, because it's SNAP, so spaying, neutering, adopting, and we think the P is protecting. You know?
Yeah, probably should have Googled that before I brought up their name.
It sounds good to me.
But they are a wonderful organization that does a ton for our community, especially for the cats in our community and our dogs.
Where are they located? Do you know, or is
They're located on Fredmore Highway. I'm not quite sure of the address off the top of my head.
I did see them. Yeah, like Fredmore between St. Clair and I-94, somewhere along that stretch. Yes, I know I've seen the sign.
Pretty building, brick red building.
Yeah. Are there animals in there, or are they're just the coordinator for?
I believe they have some cats available for adoption, but it's best to check on their website. I'm not familiar with all their operations.
Yeah, I've never seen any animals outside, like a dog kennel run or whatever. So, just curious. Do you accept donations?
We do. We have a PayPal account that is on our website for you to make donations to. And that goes to our emergency medical fund. That allows us to help as many injured animals that come into our care. Cats in St. Clair County are considered free-roaming animals. So if you find a friendly, happy outside pet, outside cat, you want to leave them where they are. That they could be somebody's indoor-outdoor cat. Sometimes folks start feeding strays, which is fine, but you want to be part of a trap, neuter, and release program if you're going to start feeding them. But if there's any cat that is injured, hit by a car, sick, unable to stand, we will absolutely help get that animal medical care. And we do that quite a bit.
Yeah. What is a feral animal?
So we're thinking as an animal community about different ways to talk about community cats. Feral usually meant that there's no owner, that the animal's just grown up without any human intervention, that it's wild. And what we really understand about community cats now is that there's often some sort of human caretaker, someone who's providing a food source for them, or who sometimes multiple families. I think of that part in Lady and the Tramp in Disney where he says, you know, on Monday this is my name and this is the house that I go to, and on Tuesday this is my name and the house that I eat at. And that's what we found that many strays are. Over a third of the animals that are considered feral or stray community cats are actually owned indoor-outdoor cats. So it's important to leave the friendly ones where they are.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they probably have a human caretaker, and that's why they're so friendly.
Right, right. Because when I had a cat, she was an indoor-outdoor cat. You know, and she had a route.
Right.
They had, you know, she had a route, man. She knew exactly where to go and, you know, where to sniff. And I said, you could thank the non-mouse population because of her, because she would always bring them home to me. So that's what they're good at.
Yes, and if that is how you choose to take care of your cat, one of the things that we always suggest is making sure that that cat is microchipped.
Yes.
So that if someone did find it injured or even brought it into a veterinarian thinking it was a stray, they could scan it for a microchip and it could get returned to you.
Where do they put the chip at?
Just in between the shoulders. It's a size of rice. It's not a GPS. It is similar to the RFID chip that is in an enhanced license, driver's license.
Yeah.
So we use a scanner and a 16-digit number comes up. We put that into the computer, and if you've updated your contact information, we're able to call you and get the animal back to you.
That's great. So if you do decide to get a cat and you want it to be an indoor-outdoor cat, you know, obviously get it spayed or neutered.
Yes.
You know, you want to keep up on all the fleas and tick stuff and the microchip. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we do microchipping for $25 at Animal Control.
Oh wow, that is very cost effective.
Yes.
Especially to get your cat, you know, your animal back.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. So we mentioned about accepting donations. Do you accept like any pet supplies? Like what happens if somebody decided that, you know, they can't keep their animal anymore and they find a home for it, but yet they have a crate and they've got dog beds and toys and...
Yeah, absolutely. We accept all kinds of donations, unscented cat litter. We do over 14 loads of laundry a day, every day.
Wow.
So we go through quite a bit of laundry detergent, bleach for disinfecting bowls. It's like running a small restaurant of 80 meals that have to happen twice a day. So we have lots of bowls that need to be washed, rinsed, and sanitized. So Dawn dish soap, bleach, paper towels. We also can always use lightly used leashes and collars. That's really great to be able to send home with, especially our friends that have come in stray that need a leash and collar to go home. And also, if they're lightly used or if they're brand new, it's nice to be able to send home with our adopted pets that they get their own leash and collar on their way out the door.
Right, right. And where do you drop this off at? Like if somebody decided that they wanted to make not only a cash donation, but something, food, whatever, where do they go?
They can come to our facility anytime from 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday.
You don't have a drop box or anything?
Nope. We try to make sure that folks are dropping off stuff during our normal hours so that nothing's sitting outside.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Is there any specific dog breed that is more commonly brought to the shelter?
No, not necessarily. Like I was saying, I think it's more the size of animal that comes in. And with a lot of the changing financial situations, it's really difficult for folks to go from having a house to going to an apartment or possibly renting and having a dog that's over 50 pounds. So we see victims of circumstance having to be owner surrendered because their people are going through financial changes and can't keep their pet with them.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people realize the long-term responsibility of having an animal, right? They get a cute little puppy at Christmas time. Well, that is your responsibility for what, up to 18 years?
I mean, it can be, depending on the breed, depending on the size. Large dogs can live up to 14, 15, 16 years old. Smaller breeds can live closer to 20. And same with cats. A lot of cats make it into their very late teens. So it's not uncommon to have a pet for 15 years or more.
Or more, right, right. What is the best advice before adopting?
I think the best advice is to really consider what your activity level is in your home and be really honest with yourself. We tend to have a vision of walking our dog and going to the dog park and doing all these things, but if your favorite thing to do is binge watch some Hulu on a Saturday, maybe you're looking actually for a more mature adult than a youngster. A dog who is into their still active, but maybe into the couch potato mode as well.
Right.
And to just be honest with yourself about what activity level your house is. Also, what type of visitors you have coming over to your home. If you have a lot of children, that means that they have a lot of friends that are coming over. So you're going to want a confident dog, and one that is trainable, one that you want to continue to work with, and also one that you have thought about how you might be able to manage in your home, so that animal has its own success station, which is an area within the house where the dog can be and kids aren't climbing all over it and getting in its space.
Yeah. What always amazes me is when someone gets an animal and they have no concept of what that breed is innately. You know, I have a friend that, she leads kind of a quiet life. She adopted a Malamute. And I said, I said, that dog is born and bred to run.
They do love running. There's a lot of very high energy breeds. With that being said, a lot of the breeding, intentional breeding that has been done over the last 50 or so years has a lot more to do with cosmetic appearance. People who really like the look of a breed, not necessarily bred for temperament or behavior. So if you're looking for a particularly purebred pet, you really want to have a conversation with a reputable breeder, someone who is willing to let you see mom, let you see dad, come on their property and see the living arrangements where the puppies were born. A reputable breeder is going to be someone who's going to talk you through the process, be there and support you, and then also if something happens, is going to have included in their contract that they would take their pet back, just like a reputable rescue or shelter would.
Yeah, because there are, I mean, we hate to talk about it, but there are puppy mills out there.
Absolutely, and the most important thing, whether you're looking for a fancy mutt, our doodle weenie, poofy,
right,
the ones that aren't purebred,
non-shedding,
right. They're designer dogs that go for high prices, but they're just mixed breed, silly, goofy, fun friends. So whether you're looking for them or you're looking for a standard dog that you would think of as purebred, is really making sure that that's a reputable place, that they let you see mom and dad, that they let you see where the puppies have grown up.
Yeah. A friend of mine rescued a golden retriever, and I don't think that poor golden retriever ever saw the light of day.
Yeah.
She was hanging so low on you know, her, because she was just overbred.
Yeah.
And she's the most loving dog now, and I swear to God, she looks at you like, thank you. Thank you for taking me out of there. And he got it from a guy in Bloomfield Hills.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's just so important to, you know, adopt, don't shop. We have amazing dogs at our shelters. We have amazing dogs within rescues in our community. And it's just so incredibly important to make sure that if you do choose to purchase a dog specifically for breed, that you understand the energy level of that breed, and that you're using a reputable breeder.
Yeah, I like that. Adopt, don't shop. That's good. Let's talk about dog licensing.
Yes. All dogs are required within the state of Michigan to be licensed. And
even if it's an inside dog and never really goes outside?
Absolutely. And that is because the license also shows that the dog has proof of vaccination for its rabies. So when it comes to rabies is always fatal. There is no cure for it. And so we want to make sure that our animals that could interact with wildlife that could be a rabies vector are licensed and protected against that virus. So when the dog is licensed, it lets us know where the dog lives, who it belongs to. It is kind of like registering your car or getting a title. If there's ever a situation where the ownership of the dog was disputed, it belongs to who licensed the dog. If someone's dog was stolen and they thought it was at someone else's house, then there's argument there that the animal was licensed and belongs to that person. So it's really important to have your dog registered. And also, if they're wearing their license and they're not microchipped, we can get them home.
Yes, yeah. What is the process?
We need to see a copy of the current rabies certificate. So you'll go to your vet, get your rabies vaccine, and then we'd see a copy of the vaccine certificate. It is $12 for a spayed or neutered dog for 1 year, $22 for a intact male and female for 1 year. If you have a 3-year booster, you can get a 3-year license. Oh. So that's something that has just started in the last couple of years.
That's good.
If you check on the Treasury's website or on our website, you can also see a list of townships where you're able to submit the paperwork to get the license. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks for a turnaround. Same thing if you use our online portal through our website, because as that is processed, then information needs to be verified through the computer system and then mailed back out to you. And with some of the slowdowns in our mail processing, it it may take a couple weeks.
And so once you get your dog, I like the 3-year thing. That's good. And so obviously this is a yearly license renewal.
Right, so you license your dog every year, or once you've had the 3-year booster, you can license them for a period of 3 years at a time.
Yep.
We do send out renewal notices. Those are sent by the Treasury Department. So about a month before your license is due, you'll get a renewal notice, and you have within 30 days of the expiration of your license to have that done before there's a late fee.
So if somebody does not have a dog license, or their dog licensed, and their dog is involved in like a biting or something like that, can they get fined for that?
Absolutely. They can get a ticket for not having their dog licensed. And then any time a dog has been involved in a dog bite situation, there is a 10-day quarantine period after that. So they can home quarantine, but they can't interact with anybody outside the home that they normally would interact with.
Oh, so if a dog bites somebody, what is considered a dog bite? Do you have to break the skin? I mean,
yes.
Okay. So the dog bites someone and breaks the skin. that dog can stay home for 10 days?
Yeah, it does need to stay home and quarantine for 10 days. And that's the monitoring period to rule out furious rabies, where the bite would be a symptom of rabies.
How would you know that?
They would start having neurological effects, and they would be dead within 10 days.
The animal.
The animal, correct.
Yeah.
So if they started having seizures, running a high temperature, being photosensitive, sensitive to light or sensitive to water, then we would know that that animal had rabies. It's important, though, to remember that the rate of rabies within canines is very low in our state and in our country. There's a lot of other countries where rabies is on the rise because vaccine levels are low. We're very fortunate in that we have a very good system here of making sure that our animals are vaccinated, and that's what the licensing process helps with.
So that's if the dog gets bit, right? So if the dog gets bit by like a possum or a raccoon or something, that's what you want to monitor for that. What if the dog bites a human and breaks the skin? So what we're talking about is the dog. If a dog has bitten anything, cat, person, another dog, then that's a 10-day quarantine period. If a dog has been bitten by wildlife, you want to monitor that dog for 45 days. Possums are not a high carrier of the rabies virus. Yeah. Possums have a bad rap.
Yeah, they're
they really do.
They're wonderful little friends, although they can sometimes carry other illnesses that we don't want our pets to come in contact with. But they're lovely little wildlife that do just get a bad rap. But any sort of bite wound, if the dog is out running and comes back in with an injury, you want to monitor for about 45 days. If you don't have an up-to-date rabies vaccine, you want to call your veterinarian right away and get that vaccinated.
Yeah.
And again, the rate of rabies is exceptionally low in our country, but because there is no cure for it, we always, as a public health measure, which is part of what animal control does, is making sure that our pets and our people stay safe.
Yeah. And what is the vaccination for rabies for a human? Is it still that series of shots?
Yes. There are additional treatments that are available, and I'm not quite as familiar, but your physician or a doctor could definitely give a good post-exposure description of what that treatment is.
Yeah. So if somebody, finds an animal running down the street, and they get it in their car somehow with a sandwich, usually, they bring the animal into you. What do you do with that animal? Because I mean, who knows where it belongs? It could belong to somebody. So obviously you check it for if it has a chip.
Yep. The very first thing is we look, does it have a collar? Does the collar have a phone number on it? Do they have, maybe they don't have a license, but they have an ID tag that has their person's phone number or address. Then we scan it for a chip and see if there's some way that we can reunite dog with person. Then the next step would be to look through any of our call records from the last couple days, if it meets any descriptions of any animals that have been called in that have been lost. And then we post it to our Facebook site that says that we found this stray animal. And if anybody's looking for it, to contact us. From there, we have volunteers that post to different community groups within social media, within Facebook groups, and then also for the Love of Louie, which is a Facebook group that's just for missing pets. And they have posts from all over the state. So that's worth checking too. not too terribly common, but it does happen where someone might work in Macomb County or Lapeer, find the dog close to their work, and then it ends up at our shelter because this is where they live and it was the shelter that they knew to bring it to.
Right.
So we communicate with the originating jurisdiction that the dog came out of to see if there's any contacts there. As I said, we have an exceptionally high return to owner rate, and that is in large part thanks to our volunteers and our animal care technicians that keep up to date on our social media.
Yeah, yeah. Thank goodness for that.
Yes.
What happens if, you know, nobody claims the dog?
If nobody claims the dog goes through a process of getting its vaccines, getting spayed or neutered, getting its rabies vaccine, and any deworming or topical flea treatment that happens at intake, but it gets a second dose 2 weeks later. And then as long as it is not a public safety risk, becomes available for adoption.
How long? How long is that process? Like for somebody turns a dog in, how many days before you decide to go, okay, nobody's claiming this dog?
So our county ordinance has it 4 business days for a dog with no identification.
Wow.
That we have to hold the dog to look for the owner, and 7 business days if the dog has some sort of evidence of ownership. So a collar, a invisible fence collar, microchip that may be a dead end microchip that doesn't have their updated contact information, then we hold it for the 7 days. Once we've gotten past the hold period, that's where we start working on scheduling all the medical things that need to happen. Obviously, if there's anything catastrophic during the hold period, we make sure that that animal gets veterinary care right away. We would never just wait for the hold period to pass before getting emergency medical help. But sometimes there's things that are just minor that need to be addressed, and once that dog is healthy or cat is healthy and able to be adopted, then it goes out for adoption and goes up onto the website as an adoptable pet. Yeah.
You mentioned the love of Louie. Do you know the background of that? Like who started it? And
yes, somebody who their dog Louie was from a situation where he was unsocialized, and he was a huge flight risk. He had gotten loose, and so whenever anybody found him, he would run, and so they started tracking him, and it turned into kind of an internet sensation. And since then, it's transformed into this huge network of volunteers all over the state that work to reunite people with their pets.
So the love of Louie, that started in Michigan?
Yes. That's a Michigan only Facebook site, yes.
Oh, it's only Michigan?
Yep.
Oh, I thought it was countrywide. What kind of a dog was Louie, do you know?
I don't remember. I remember when he went missing, but I don't remember what sort of dog he was.
Because you mentioned that, and it's like, yeah, a lot of people know that. Yeah. The love of Louie. It's popular.
Yes, it's very popular, and it's great because it reunites pets all the time.
Right.
They have a really amazing team.
So you had mentioned volunteers. Let's talk about how to volunteer at your shelter, because I'm sure you love volunteers.
We love volunteers. Volunteers are what takes us from good to great.
Yeah.
Our volunteers go through a small background check. So there's an application to fill out. You can email us at animalcontrol@stclaircounty.org and let us know that you want to be a volunteer. We'll send you the application. And also when our next scheduled online volunteer orientation is. I started doing those through Zoom during COVID, since we couldn't have whole groups of people together for an orientation. And it just gives a brief insight into what volunteering is like, what major things there are to do at the shelter. As I said, laundry and dishes are a constant, but the dogs need to be walked and cats need to be socialized, and like I said, with the kitten season coming up, there's kittens that need to be played with. So in with the work that goes into taking care of the pets is also a lot of snuggles and fun.
Mm-hmm. So do you have a specific time frame that the volunteers come in, or can?
Typically 9 to 3:30.
Okay.
We have those hours that are open for volunteers to come in. We typically see quite a few more volunteers on the weekends because that's when folks have time, but we do accept volunteers to come in Monday through Friday, which is really great. When we have those extra folks, especially help get the dogs out on a third or fourth walk of the day so that they can go potty outside and really do some sniffing and investigating and learning about loose leash walking.
And do they have a specific route that they go? Because you don't want them putting a dog in a car, right?
Of course, yeah. They can't leave our property, so they do have to stay on our property, but we have a couple different exercise pens where one's sort of longer, so if you want to play fetch within a fenced-in area, you can. One's a little bit smaller so that the dog can be off leash and sniffing around, but maybe just wants to be brushed or pet, and doesn't necessarily need to be running full force down the whole side of the building after a tennis ball.
Yeah. Any specific age group? Like, could a parent bring in their kids to help play with pets?
You have to be over 18. There are other organizations and rescues and places that do accept children under 18, but because we're a municipal entity, we have to be over 18.
Yeah. It sounds like there is a real variety of things for a volunteer to do, and I guess because they're volunteering, does it matter how long they spend there? If somebody just devotes an hour a week, you get a lot of people doing an hour a week. That's a lot of hours.
That's a lot of hours. We had over 2,200 volunteer hours just last year alone.
Wow, nice.
So that really helps us. When it comes to folks that maybe want to volunteer but don't have a ton of time, or the time they have are not times that they're able to volunteer, we do have some tasks and things that can be done at home. We post on the volunteer page, like I said, with the social media and helping reuniting pets with their owners. That's something that can be done in your pajamas at 9 o'clock at night. There's times that we have DIY, do-it-yourself crafts, making snuggle blankets for the cat cages, or maybe enrichment items that you can make at home that you can bring in. Right.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that love to sew and quilt and all that good stuff, and there's only so many people you can send those to. Start sending them to the. I didn't think about the animal shelters.
Yeah, about 24 by 24 little quilts, or we try to stay away from things that are knitted or crocheted because the string can become an obstruction if it's ingested.
Right.
So with our cats, we're able to make the knitted items snugly things for beds, but not with our dogs.
Yeah. So Betty White just passed away.
Yes.
Right? And there was the Betty White Project.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it was super intense in a really wonderful way. I believe her birthday would have been January 19th, and someone somewhere on social media said, hey, to honor her life and her legacy, donate to your local shelter. And it became a viral ask.
Sensation.
And we got about 2 months of donations in 2 days. We were, every time we cleared the lobby of donations, there was another load that someone had dropped off. And it was amazing because everything that we can possibly save when it comes to the consumables that we use, the dog food, the cat food, the litter, detergent, those sort of things, everything that we can save with that goes to the ensuring that we can help as many medical pets that we possibly can, as well as education programs and information to keep animals safe and educate the public.
Yeah. You think it's going to be a yearly event?
I don't know. I would really love it to be.
Yeah. That would be a great legacy, you know. The
absolutely.
Betty White Project every January, kind of before the spring rush.
Yes.
You know, right.
Yeah, it would be really lovely. She loved pets.
She did love
pets. She did a lot for animal advocacy.
Yeah. Yeah, she did. So you had mentioned donating food. Is there a specific cat or dog food that you are looking for?
Yep, Purina dog chow and the indoor cat chow is what we're using in the shelter right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's a brand that's typically pretty available even during these supply chain issues. And it's a good enough nutritional quality for our pets on a daily basis.
Yeah, good. Talk to me about having a kitten shower, because you had mentioned that, you know, it's kitten season.
Yes. So this year we're trying to have an online kitten shower similar to a baby registry, but it's all the things that we need for those emergency orphaned litters of kittens and sometimes the kittens that do come in with mom. Everything from kitten milk replacer to some fleecy blankets to little tiny bottles to help them when they're about 2 weeks old. You're getting up every 2 hours with them to feed everybody. We're looking for fosters that are interested in having bottle baby or young kittens until they get to that 8 to 10 weeks and 2-pound weight so that they can become adoptable. It's really ideal for kittens to not be in a shelter environment. We run a wonderful shelter with really great cleaning and disinfecting protocols, but it's just no substitute for growing up in a home with in a low stress environment with being able to be socialized with humans.
Yeah, yeah. So to look for the kitten shower, you're going to go on your website?
Yep, you can go on our website. We're posting every day this week on Facebook for the link, and you can go there. It's an Amazon wish list, so whatever you purchase will get delivered directly to us. So we're pretty excited. Also, just a few facts when it comes to kittens. If you see kittens that are by themselves, don't panic. Lots of times during the day, mom is out hunting and getting her own food and staying away from the babies for large periods of time. So if you see kittens, as long as they're warm and plump, mom is involved and she's just not there at that very moment. If more than 12 hours goes by and the kittens are cold or they are looking very skinny, that's where you want to give us a call and maybe talk about doing some intervention. Yeah, yeah. So don't kitten nap.
Yeah. Does mom move them?
She does. If she detects that there's some sort of threat, she will move kittens. So if you see a kitten by himself, you want to keep an eye on him, but it's likely within the next hour or so mom is in the process of moving kittens to a different location. Yeah. And you brought some graphics with you, right? It wasn't one the kitten one? Yes, and that does have the link to our Amazon wish list. Yeah, so we'll throw that up on the screen too. Anything else? We covered a lot. I think we covered quite a bit. We did. We covered a lot. I just really hope that people take away some of the super important things, which is spayed and neutering your animals, spending some time volunteering, because that's huge. I know so many older people that this could be part of their day,
you know,
Yeah.
coming in and you know, doing a little bit of dog walking, and the importance of, you know, obviously medical care, licensing, and, you know, all that good stuff. So
Absolutely. I think you touched on just about everything that I would bring up as the most important parts of being a safe and humane community.
Yeah, good, good, good. Well, thank you for your time. It was
Thank you for having
a
me.
pleasure having you here. And thank you for listening and watching. My name is Cheryl Verkaman, and again, this is the Mayor Minute on CTV. Thank you.